My name is Laura. I am 32 years old. I used to believe that success was everything. I believed that love could wait. I believed that my career would always be there for me, but people would understand. I was wrong. I worked as a senior marketing manager at a global company. I earned more money than anyone in my family ever had. My days were filled with meetings, deadlines, presentations, and phone calls that never stopped. My phone was always in my hand. Even when I slept, it stayed next to me. At work, people respected me. They listened when I spoke. They admired my confidence. They said things like, "Laura, you're unstoppable." And I loved hearing that. But at home, there was a man I slowly stopped seeing. His name was Daniel. He was my husband. Daniel was not ambitious like me. He worked as a public librarian. He loved quiet places, old books, and helping people find answers. He earned just enough to live simply. He never cared about promotions or titles. He cared about peace. When we first got married, I loved that about him. But over time, I changed. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise. I checked emails while brushing my teeth. I answered messages while drinking coffee. Daniel used to sit across from me at the table, smiling softly. "Good morning," he would say. I would nod without looking up. At night, when I came home exhausted, Daniel had dinner ready. Sometimes he cooked my favorite meals. Sometimes he waited with candles, trying to surprise me. But most nights, I was too tired. "I still have work," I would say, opening my laptop again. Daniel would quietly clean the table alone. At first he tried to talk. "Laura, maybe we could take a short walk after dinner." "Laura, remember we talked about visiting the lake this weekend?" "Laura, you promised we'd watch a movie together." Each time I said the same thing. Later. Later became tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became never. I told myself I was doing this for us, for our future, for security, for success. But Daniel never asked for more money. He only asked for me. One evening, I came home very late. My heels echoed loudly in the hallway. The apartment was dark. Only a small lamp was on in the living room. Daniel was sitting on the couch. "You're late again," he said softly. "I had an important client meeting," I replied, annoyed. "You know how this job is." He nodded. "I made dinner. It's cold now." I sighed loudly. "Daniel, you know I don't have time for these conversations." He looked at me carefully. "I don't want conversations. I want my wife." Something snapped inside me. "I am building a career," I shouted. "Do you want me to fail? Do you want us to live like everyone else?" Daniel didn't raise his voice. He never did. "I don't want you to fail," he said. "I just don't want to lose you." I walked past him into the bedroom. I locked the door. I told myself he was being dramatic. That night, I slept alone. Days passed. Weeks passed. Daniel stopped asking. He stopped planning dinners. He stopped suggesting trips. He stopped waiting for me at the table. At first, I felt relieved. No pressure. No guilt. But slowly, the apartment felt quieter. Too quiet. One morning, I noticed Daniel packing his lunch. "You don't eat breakfast anymore?" I asked. He smiled politely. "I eat at work." I didn't ask why. Another evening, I noticed he no longer waited up for me. I didn't ask why. I was promoted soon after. My boss congratulated me in front of everyone. I should have been happy. But that night, When I came home, Daniel was asleep on the couch. He had fallen asleep reading a book. His glasses were crooked on his face. There was a blanket wrapped loosely around him. I stood there for a moment, then my phone buzzed. Another email, another task. I stepped over him and went to bed. The distance between us grew silently. No fights, no drama, just absence. One Sunday morning, Daniel asked, "Can we talk?" I checked my watch. "Make it quick." He took a deep breath. "I feel alone, Laura." I rolled my eyes. "You're overthinking." "Maybe I am." That was the last time he tried. A few months later, my company planned a huge international project. It was the biggest opportunity of my career. I volunteered immediately. This meant traveling constantly. Late nights, more pressure. When I told Daniel, he smiled weakly. "I'm proud of you," he said. I didn't notice the sadness behind his eyes. One night, while I was away on a business trip, Daniel called me. "Laura," he said, his voice low, "I don't feel well." I checked my schedule. "Can you call a doctor?" "I just wanted to hear your voice." I sighed. "Daniel, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later." I never called. The next morning I saw 3 missed calls from him. I ignored them. I told myself he'd be fine. 2 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Is this Laura?" a calm voice asked. "Yes, this is City Hospital." My heart dropped. "Your husband has been admitted." I laughed nervously. "That's impossible. He never gets sick." There was a pause. He collapsed at work. I felt the room spinning. I booked the earliest flight home. When I arrived at the hospital, the smell of disinfectant filled the air. A nurse led me to a room. Daniel was lying there, pale, thin. Machines beeped quietly beside him. I froze. "Daniel," I whispered. His eyes opened slowly. He smiled. Even then, he smiled. "You came," he said softly. I sat beside him. I held his hand. It felt cold. "What happened?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Heart failure," he said calmly. "Stress and loneliness." The word loneliness stabbed me. "I'm here now," I said quickly. "Everything will be okay." He looked at me for a long time. "I don't think so," he whispered. Over the next few days, I stayed at the hospital. I canceled meetings. I ignored emails. For the first time in years, my phone stayed silent. Daniel grew weaker. One night, he asked me to bring his bag from home. Inside it, I found a notebook. It was filled with dates. Each date had a short line. "Laura worked late. I ate alone. Laura forgot our anniversary. Laura smiled at her phone more than at me. Laura didn't notice I was gone." My hands trembled. At the back of the notebook was one sentence. "I loved her quietly so she could shine loudly." I broke down. That night, Daniel's condition worsened. I sat beside him, holding his hand. "I'm sorry," I whispered again and again. "Please don't leave me." He opened his eyes one last time. "I never needed you to choose me over your career," he said weakly. "I just wanted you to choose me sometimes." Tears streamed down my face. "I choose you now," I cried. He smiled faintly. "I know." And then he was gone. The world didn't stop. Emails still arrived. Deadlines still existed. Meetings still happened. But my life collapsed. At the funeral, People spoke about how kind Daniel was, how patient, how gentle. I stood there, realizing I never truly knew him at the end. Weeks later, I returned to work. Nothing felt the same. The office lights were too bright. The praise felt empty. The success felt heavy. I went home to an empty apartment. No warm dinners, no quiet smiles, no gentle voice asking about my day. Just silence. One evening, I sat on the floor and cried until my chest hurt. I had chosen my career, and I lost the man who chose me every day. Now, when people ask me about success, I tell them this: a career will never hold your hand in the hospital. A title will never forgive you. Money will never wait for you with love. If you are too busy to love someone today, you may wake up one day with everything and no one. Don't wait until later. Later doesn't always come. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to Talk English Stories. Cherish the people who love you quietly before the silence becomes permanent.